Millions of Americans use protein bars and shakes to get in shape, but a new study says they may actually do more harm than good. Judy Gaman is an award-winning author, speaker, radio show host. She's joining us on the KOGO News Live line. And good morning, Judy.
Good morning. I'm so excited that we're talking about this because you're right. Protein shakes, protein bars, $14 billion a year spent on this. People are going crazy with this.
I've got one right in front of me. So and I don't think that's good. Explain this study to us.
So here's what happened. The University of Sydney looked at people that consume a lot of protein shakes, a lot of protein bars. And a lot of times these are people who, this is their whole thing. They're not eating other foods. They're not eating eggs. They're not eating meat. They're living off of these protein bars and protein shakes. And what they found was if they're having the same type of protein over and over and over, it's doing more harm than good. Because what happens, they get too much protein, they're gaining weight, maybe they're having mood changes, and overall they might be shortening their life. And this goes back to balance. We got to have a balanced life. If you're using protein to get stronger, to build muscle, you still got to have all these other nutrients. You can't live on bars and shakes. And that's what we're seeing happening, especially in this younger generation. So
these bars and shakes can actually lead to weight gain?
They can, because the average person needs about 0.36 grams per pound of their body weight in protein. So that means you take an average 150-pound, 140-pound male, female, and they need somewhere between 50 and 60 grams of protein. But if you look at these bars, some of them say that they have 30 or 40 grams. Well, they're eating a couple of those a day, so you can see how easy it is for them to get way above the amount of protein that they actually need.
Now, what about depression? There's something in here about it could cause depression.
Well, that's because these protein shakes and bars sometimes have what we call branch-chain amino acids, BCAAs, and when you get too much of this amino acid and the tryptophan that comes along with it, you get an overproduction, and that's what can lead to mood changes. Now, we know serotonin is good. It's the happy chemical that we want in our body, but too much of anything is not a good thing. So too much tryptophan, which then causes the raise in the serotonin, is not necessarily a good thing. Everything in moderation. We got to have our fruits, we got to have our vegetables, and we really need to be consuming protein and other sources outside of bars and shakes.
So I know somebody who carries protein shakes in their car, and every time he just gets a little hungry, he drinks a protein shake. Is this a bad habit of getting into?
It is a bad habit because a protein shake or a protein bar shouldn't be your go-to snack. Because if you're eating normally and then you're consuming these shakes and these bars on top of that. Now, if you want to do it, you want it for breakfast or you want it for your noon meal, that's a different story. Snacking on it like your friend that's carrying it in the car, which, by the way, is not a good idea, especially if it gets hot, is really something you don't want to get in the habit of doing. You're better off having a baggie of grapes or something similar to have to snack on, maybe some nuts, handful of almonds, than having these shakes and these bars. And I got to tell you, a lot of these shakes, and this is very concerning to the medical field. I know at Executive Medicine of Texas, we see people all the time that are on these shakes, and they'll bring them in, and we're like, have you looked at everything else that's in here? Sometimes there's artificial flavors and sweeteners and all kinds of other things that you don't need to be putting in your body.
Good point. Judy Gaman, who's an author, speaker, radio show host. Thank you so much for the information. Really appreciate it.
Always a pleasure, Ted.